This is a brand new Maserati Levante Trofeo, and it's the high-performance version of the Maserati Levante SUV. And this is a video about the Maserati Levante Trofeo, except I'm not standing next to it like usual because my microphones broke while I was filming this. So today, I'm going to review this a little differently than usual. I've borrowed this Levante Trofeo from Ontario Maserati, which is the local Maserati dealer here in Ontario, California, in San Bernardino County, east of Los Angeles. The Trofeo is big news because it's the sportiest Maserati SUV yet, and it's just arriving in dealers. So what makes the Levante Trofeo so sporty? Well, the regular Levante has 350 horsepower from its turbo V6, and if you want more, you can upgrade to the Levante S with 425 horsepower, or the Levante GTS with 542 horsepower. But now, the Trofeo, is at the top of the heap, and it has 582 horsepower, which really is a massive figure. This will do 190 miles an hour. It'll do 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, and it starts from a little over $170,000 with shipping. So today I'm going to take you on a tour of the Levante Trofeo, and I'm going to see if it's a big improvement over the regular Maserati Levante, which I reviewed about a year and a half ago, and which I didn't like very much. First, I'm going to show you a few of my favorite quirks and features of the Trofeo, then I'm going to get it out on the road and drive it, and then I'm going to give it a Doug score. So I'll start the quirks and features on the outside of the Levante Trofeo, where the first thing you'll notice is larger wheels and larger brakes for better stopping power. To me, this dramatically enhances the look over the regular one. Interestingly, aside from upgrades like this, the new look is pretty subtle. Take a look in back and you'll notice there isn't even a Trofeo badge back there to let other road users know you have the special one. The only Trofeo badge on the outside is this cool one on the side that looks at first glance like the regular Maserati badge, but actually it says Trofeo in it, which is really nice and subtle. But there are other ways to tell apart the Levante Trofeo beyond the little badge and the bigger wheels and brakes. This carbon fiber rear diffuser, for instance, and this carbon fiber side skirt, and in front there's a carbon fiber chin spoiler and a larger opening for more air to pass through into the engine. Inside there are a few other distinguishing traits. One I love is this floor mat, which has a leather edge and says Trofeo on it. I'm not sure how practical a leather-lined floor mat really is, but here we are. It definitely looks cool. In the headrest, Trofeo again makes an appearance with the Maserati emblem and the Trofeo script stitched there, but otherwise this car is a pretty subtle step up over the regular Levante despite its big price tag. Looking around the interior though, you see a major selling point of this car. It's way nicer inside than the lower level Levante models. The door stitching is dramatically improved and it looks like the luxury car that it is. The seats are far, far nicer than the base level Levante with nice stitching and a nice pattern. The carbon fiber look in the center is a huge step up over the crappy plastic they stick in the base models. The Bowers & Wilkins sound system is also a big upgrade over the base system. The pedals have this nice aluminum look and Maserati logos, and they look fantastic, and the gear lever has nice stitching and this attractive Maserati logo printed on it. The Alcantara headliner also gives this car an upscale feel, and if you've watched my review of the Maserati Ghibli, you'll want to see this. No, you can no longer fit a tube of toothpaste in this door gap. It's dramatically improved. Looking around the interior, it's clear that this is how the Levante should have looked from day one, and there shouldn't have been some crappy base model that diluted the Maserati name. This is what a Maserati should be. With all that said, there are still some drawbacks in here. The engine start-stop button is straight out of cheap Chrysler models, for instance, and the same is true of the turn signal stock. This is the same cheap part you get in the Chrysler Pacifica minivan and the Dodge Durango. I also hate this window switch panel, which is the same one from the Dodge Dart, except with little chrome tips on the end. This stuff is disappointing in any Levante, but especially in one that costs $170,000. All interiors have drawbacks though, and this one is definitely a huge step up from the regular Levante. Anyway, on to some of the weird quirks of this car. One is the center control knob, which is still very odd to me. The top knob turns and controls stereo volume, and the bottom knob turns and moves around the infotainment screen. Two different knobs controlling two different things stacked on top of each other. Definitely a quirk. Here's another one. The rear seats are heated, which is nice, but the button to turn on the heated rear seats is near the bottom of the rear doors. You'd think this would add massive complication compared to, well, sticking the button not on the door, but that's what they've done. With With that said, in the place where the heated seat buttons probably should be on the back of the center console, there are 2 USB ports and a cigarette lighter outlet, all of which is really useful for rear passengers. And speaking of charging, in the cargo area, there's a port for a trickle charger to plug in so you can park your Trofeo for a while and plug it in to keep the battery from dying. I also love that the electronic plate for the radar cruise control sensor in front is neatly integrated into the Maserati Trident logo, which is a nice design for companies who get it right, and not all of them do. Anyway, with that in mind, time to get the Trofeo out on the road and drive it. All right, driving the Levante Trofeo. I am not Maserati's biggest supporter. Some of their cars have been subpar, to say the least. The Ghibli, when it first came out, the quality was just not there. They were way overcharging compared to rivals. When I drove the Levante right after it first came out, I did a review on either the S or the base, I don't remember. I thought it was similar in terms of materials, and quality was just not all that good, just not worth what they were charging. But I also felt that the steering and handling was really, really sharp. I felt then and feel now that it was better than the Cayenne Turbo. So I've kind of been hoping for a Levante that could come along and address my complaints about the quality while still preserving that amazing steering and handling. And so when I saw this was announced like a year ago and just got into dealers in the last couple of months, I was like, well, maybe the Trofeo is that car. And so I've been poking around it, trying to find, you know, all these quirks and features, and I'm already really impressed. The interior quality is dramatically better, and just sitting here driving, you can tell a few things are nice. For example, the paddles are these nice metal paddles that stay fixed when you move the steering wheel like they should in a sports car. They feel good to use, to touch. The exhaust note is just fantastic. You can tell that in just a few minutes of driving. You take a listen to a couple of revs. And another impressive feature of this car, it has something called driver assist that will do sort of self-driving on the highway. Slow down, speed up, maintain your lane. It will only work on a highway. It's GPS based, and a few of the other systems are like that too. But in other words, Maserati's kind of catching up in terms of technology to some of the rival brands, and you're starting to think, well, maybe this car is actually worth a look. I mean, could it be? Now the price tag is prohibitive. $172,000 is massive money. You're only 40 or 50 grand short of a Urus at this point. You're north of Cayenne Turbo. It's an expensive car, but let's see if it's a good one. All right, I'm accelerating here. Oh! This is it. Wow. That is excellent, excellent, excellent speed. 580 horsepower, or whatever it is. You really feel it. That is fantastic. Quick shifts, too. Really quick shifts. Wow. Oh, yeah. That works. It is incredibly responsive. Just the moment, if you're geared up right, if you're in the right power band, the moment you step on the throttle, it moves, and it makes all the right sounds when it's doing it. Once again, steering and handling is still really sharp. I actually don't quite think it's as good as the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, Alfa's luxury SUV. It feels good, but it's not quite as precise. I was just so impressed with that. That's probably the best handling SUV I have still driven, except for the Urus, which is in a different price bracket. This does feel faster. I'm just blown away by the acceleration in this car. Really an impressive thing. Now I'm sitting here at a stoplight, and it gives you the chance to kind of look around the interior, and just everything is much nicer than that base Levante or Levante S that I drove. You still have a couple of Chrysler carried over parts, not good. Everything else, though, is nice. Materials are good, like I mentioned earlier. It's an improvement. And one wonders, honestly, if this is what the Levante should have been when it first came out, or at least what the Levante S should have been. Instead of making this the top level model in the range and you got to go past 4 trim levels, maybe there shouldn't have been these crappy little entry level models that kind of sully the brand's name and reputation. Maybe this is how it should have been from the get-go. And so that's the Maserati Levante Trofeo. I always liked the driving experience of the original Maserati Levante, and I love the driving experience of the Trofeo. It's fast, it's fun, it's thrilling, and it's really powerful. I still wish the interior was a little bit nicer to compete with rivals like the Porsche Cayenne Turbo and even the Lamborghini Urus, but this is a good SUV and a big improvement over the regular Levante. And now it's time to give it a Doug score, and the Doug score is here. The Trofeo is a huge improvement over the regular Levante, and it jumps by 8 points over the standard model. It's still still falls short of the Cayenne Turbo, as that's a more complete package with better technology, higher quality, and better styling. But the Levante Trofeo is certainly worth a close look, and I wouldn't say it about the regular version.